The first use case you think about blockchain is payments, right? So that's the first thing you want to do is show that you can secure a payment mechanism just like Visa, MasterCard, but much more secure, without middlemen, take away the fees, offers economies of scale, so the more people use it, the cheaper it gets. The way we view the future of value in the long term, 3 to 5 to 10 years, we view layer 1 blockchains will essentially become like the new republics. These will be the new mechanisms where all the value is going to proliferate to. In the future, there will be the layer 1 blockchain, there will be the mining market, there will be the dApps, and there will be tokens. So the lower you get in the stack, the lower risk you have, but the lower rewards. The highest risk reward will be on the layer 1 blockchain, because that's where all the value will flow up. But it's highest value, highest risk. We view layer 1 blockchains, which is Bitcoin, Syscoin, Ethereum, as court systems. They need to be combative to the external forces that we don't control, even in the software world. In the real world, like inflation, hyperinflation, wars, these systems need to be secure from that. And this is why we view Bitcoin as the gold standard for security and decentralization. What else does the world need? What else does the world cherish when you have something like Bitcoin? How can we extend that to something else where we can take advantage to build real world utility? This is where Ethereum comes in. For me, Ethereum is a gold standard for flexibility or general computation. We're trying to stick to the gold standards we know the world's going to cherish and develop on, and we put those two concepts together. And this is what Syscoin is.
What's up, people? Hotep Jesus. We back.
Hotep.
People that don't know, I am
that Hotep Jesus dude. That Hotep Jesus dude.
I am that Hotep Jesus dude. Welcome all. Shout out to our sponsor, Syscoin, the Medici family supporting the Hotep Jesus channel. We appreciate you. Lots of great announcements coming soon from the Syscoin team, so look out for that. You guys saw the commercial beforehand. Everybody looking to produce on the blockchain, go check out the Syscoin project, one of the best projects, if not the best project, happening outside of the Bitcoin sphere. With that being said, we're going to hop directly into today's presentation in regard to the Nord Stream pipeline. Previously, I wasn't going to do this, but well, it's just too juicy not to grift off of, so I'm doing a double grift today. So I'm doing a double grift today. And it started off with this, right? So I write for this website. I'm sorry, Brian Sharp writes for this website, menofwater.com. Many of you are already familiar with Men of Water. And, well, it was a grifty article to cover. And rather interesting after we dove into the specifics of the Nord Stream pipeline. Really fast, I want to answer a question. Somebody said that the Patreon was empty. It depends on what Patreon you're talking about. If you're talking about the Hotep Nation Patreon, there is no content there. We do all of our donations on hotepnation.com now. But there is a difference between Hotep Nation Patreon and Hotep's Been Told You Patreon. A Hotep's Been Told You Patreon is patreon.com/Hotep's Been Told You, and that's for Hotep's Been Told You 2.0. Faith is in the chat. He's asking, will there be a Hotep's Been Told You episode tonight? Of course there will be. So tune in tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we have a very juicy episode lined up for you and some surprises as well. So anyway, let's get back to it. So who sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline? So I'm glad I put this together for some people who are unfamiliar with this topic and all the happenings around it. So let's just hop into it. So let me just make sure it looks good on your screen. Okay, perfect. Good. Looks good. So Nord Stream 1 and 2 experienced dramatic dips in pressure Monday, September 27, 2022. Seismograph readings on the Danish Island of Bornholm recorded 2 spikes in earth tremors at the time of this occurrence. So anybody knows anything about a seismograph, this is basically, often they use this to detect earthquakes, right? So I would assume that there was an explosion that would cause a seismograph reading. or spike in earth tremors. I'm no expert, but that's my guess. You can do your own research and come to your own conclusions. So let's continue. NATO has concluded that the series of leaks on the Nord Stream pipelines resulted from sabotage. Okay, so what is the Nord Stream pipeline? Nord Stream pipeline is a 760-mile long pipeline connecting Russia's Siberian gas fields to Germany under the Baltic Sea. Nord Stream has a capacity of about of 65 billion cubic meters annually and was first opened in 2011. Nord Stream AG owns and operates the pipeline. The Russian state-owned company Gazprom is the majority stakeholder. Now, I want to pause right there because, as you know, I often talk about Russia and Russia's history as it relates to the West. Now, we all know about the oil wars, right? We all know about every time there's a war with the country, it seems like the country has an immense amount of natural resources. And if you've been paying attention to my channel, I always talk about how Germany seems to be the one, let's just call it a state or a nation, that has been impenetrable. I think the first legitimate or semi-successful attempt at destabilizing Russia and controlling Russia came in the form of the Russian Revolution or the Bolshevik Revolution, to which the Soviet Union was born. Now, many other countries have come under the control of bankers. United States has completely come into control of bankers. The 5 nations of the Rothschild sons have come under the control of the banksters, etc., etc. But it seems like Russia, someone at least, has been impenetrable. And, the Tsar, as we know, the Tsar was overthrown, apparently murdered. The population in Russia was not happy about that. The population in Russia following the Bolshevik Revolution was not happy. In fact, the Bolsheviks actually lost the election directly after the Bolshevik Revolution. But getting back to the topic here, when you look at places like the Ottoman Empire, right? Like the Ottoman Empire, remember I was speaking with my attorney Sharoz and those guys, shout out to those guys. And they were talking, I brought up the Ottoman Empire and they were like, if the Ottoman Empire, I think they said, could withstand takeover for another 10 years, they'd still be here because, as you know, Saudi Arabia discovered the amount of oil under the ground there. Well, Russia, another place, Siberia, tremendous amount of oil resources, natural gas resources. So obviously the banksters, they want some of that. And if they can't get some of that, they're going to make sure that Russia cannot exploit it. When we look at World War II, for example, Germany has suffered a massive famine due to naval blockades, cutting off of resources. And that's a very old tactic. It's a very old war tactic. Not only are you fighting on the battlefield, but you want to cut off supply lines to the nation and to its military. Basically starve it out. It makes it harder to fight a war when you're starving. So obviously, this pipeline situation could potentially be an act of war. Let's go back to the article. So we already gone over what the Nord Stream pipeline is. So let's talk about why the Nord Stream pipeline is important. Shout out to PhilFosterFitness.com. He's got an amazing protein powder, and he sponsors menoforder.com. Okay, let's continue. So it says, why is the Nord Stream pipeline important? The capacity of Nord Stream gives it the ability to supply about 10% of the EU's annual consumption. Nord Stream 2 would have doubled its capacity. Before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, EU, hold on, let me refresh this because I just made this stuff bold. There we go. Okay, that's the updated version. Before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, hold on, let me make sure you guys can hear me. Everybody can hear me, right? Okay, good. If you have questions, super chat, comments, go ahead and hit the super chat button. So it says, Before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the EU imported roughly 40% of its gas from Russia, and Germany depended on Russia for about 55% of its gas. Germany has worked to reduce that number to 35% and plans to reduce it to zero by importing gas from other countries. The EU member states agreed to cut their gas dependency down to 15%. So you can see the amount of control or amount of leverage that Russia held over the European Union and its states, especially Germany. And as you dive into some of the 19th century history between 19th century and 20th century history between Russia and Germany, very, very interesting as they go from ally to enemy, and well, let's continue. Much to be said about that, much to be studied on that. Okay, so it says here, next section, who sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline? That's why everybody's here watching the stream, because they want to know who sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline. So let's hop right into it. So Russia has been blamed for the sabotage by Forbes writer Ariel Cohen, and the title of that article reads, Russian sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline marks a point of no return. And I'll show you that article, which I thought was rather hilarious. So here you can see the article published September 29th, 2022, which was early this morning. And he begins this article off and says, on April 28th, 1986, 2 days after the Chernobyl disaster, Swedish scientists detected radiation emanating from the Soviet Union. After much hemming and hawing, the Western detection of radiation forced the Soviets to admit to the world what had happened in Chernobyl and retract previous statements. History once again rhymed when on September 27, 2022, seismographs near Bornholm, Denmark recorded 2 explosions emanating from the Nord Stream pipeline. The truth discredits earlier Russian statements that these are simple leaks. And don't expect Russian President Vladimir Putin to come clean like Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev eventually did. So, you know, they go on to basically try to blame the leaks on Russia here. Now, let's go to conflicting evidence. So, menofwater.com reports and says, however, I find this unlikely. This was a bizarre move, as Russia had already shut supply lines off, said Mike Fullwood, a senior fellow research at the independent Oxford Institute of Energy Studies. And we ask, why would Russia sabotage a resource that gives them leverage over the EU, considering the dependency of Europe on Russia's gas? Why would Russia sabotage the pipeline when it could simply hit the off switch, which they have? Prior to this sabotage, the pipelines were off. They've been off I think they've been off since August. 2 was not operational, and we'll go into right now why 2 wasn't operational. So, I believe there are more likely suspects of the sabotage. From the above information, Germany and the EU wanted to reduce energy dependence on Russia. And we saw that. They said they wanted to reduce their energy dependence on Russia, right? They no longer want Russia to have this leverage over them. Okay, so here it says, this is a huge change for German foreign policy with massive implications for energy security and Berlin's broader position towards Moscow. It suggests that Germany is actually serious about imposing tough costs on Russia. Okay, so you see here, Germany is actually serious about imposing tough costs on Russia, said Marcel Dersis, a non-resident fellow at Kiel University's Institute for Security Policy, and that is a German university. This is a morally, politically, and practically correct step in the current circumstances. True leadership means tough decisions in difficult times. Germany's move proves just that. And this is from Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, which he tweeted. So Ukraine is fully, or I can't say fully, but according to this foreign minister, they are supporting the withdrawal of energy dependency on Russia. The Federal Network Agency, regulator of Germany's electric, gas, telecom, post, and railway sectors, suspended the certification process of Nord Stream 2 in November. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he had asked the economy ministry to make sure certification could not take place now. So Germany was the one holding up the activation of Nord Stream 2, because Nord Stream 2 pretty much ends in Germany, and you need the certification and authorization of Germany because, well, that's where the pipeline is going to. And they said no. So that's why Nord Stream 2, the second pipeline, which was going to double its capacity, was not active. Then there are the ominous remarks by President Joe Biden. President Joe Biden says, if Russia invades Ukraine, then there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2. We will bring it to an end. And a reporter asked, how will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control? President Biden says, I promise you, we will be able to do that. And that's a very ominous remark. How, Mr. Joe? And you can see the video over here. I'm not going to play it. I'm sure all of you have seen this video. It's circulated all over the internet. And if you want to watch it, go to menoforder.com and you can go ahead and you can watch it. So with that being said, I ask you, who do you think was responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline? Is it the United States? Is it Russia? Is it Germany? Is it EU? Is it NATO? Who ultimately wanted that thing shut down? If we look at the evidence, we can see that they wanted to decrease energy dependency on Russia. And if they sabotage the pipeline, well, hey, that's exactly what'll happen. It'll just be automatically decreased. You know, the sad part is, and there's a bunch of implications here, especially when we talk about Marx and the destruction of the middle class. Well, what's going to happen to gas prices in Europe? Well, obviously they're going to spike when you have a scarcity of a certain resource, in this case, gas. So the people in Europe are going to be affected heavily by this based upon gas prices. And when gas prices go up, prices of other commodities go up as well, because, well, gas is used to transport these things over land and sometimes over sea as well. So this is going to affect all types of prices. Now, the other thing is, if there are imports to other countries, those other countries are going to have to pay that tax, that sort of built-in tax. I'm not sure what they are, but whatever commodities are coming into the U.S. or other countries, that's going to be felt around the world, depending on what these countries export. So we can definitely expect, I believe, or I can speculate, a massive recession that's going to hit the EU, the European nations, and for other reasons, the United States, mostly due to the actions of the central bank. So what comes next? Well, obviously what comes next is, well, if you put everybody into poverty, well, you're going to need something called UBI, Universal Basic Income. You're going to need some sort of welfare, food stamp programs, et cetera, and then ultimately they'll end with the central bank digital currency, aka the CBDC. I can't say end, but that's pretty much, you know, the nail in the coffin for sovereignty. And yeah, so you have to keep a lookout for that. And if you want to learn about the CBDC and the central bank digital currency, go to menoforder.com, and there's plenty of information on there. We got the Bitcoin article, Bitcoin's evil nemesis, that's trending on the website right now, and Biden coin, the cryptocurrency, fascism looming over America. And that's that. I appreciate everyone for watching the stream, this broadcast. Hopefully you understand the Nord Stream pipeline with this too long didn't read version of the story. I encourage you to go do your own research, visit menoforder.com, read the article, check out the citations. You know, each piece of factoid is cited. So I encourage you to go read those as well. We'll be back tonight with another episode of Hotep's Been Told You, where we'll be talking about the Nord Stream pipeline and much, much more. My name is Hotep Jesus, and I appreciate you. And I will see you once again at some point in the future, if I can find my outro thing. There it is.
You hear a lot of people say this, and I totally agree with it. They say, fail fast, and it's so true. But it also ties into the procrastination conversation. What is procrastination? Procrastination is nothing more than the delay of the gifts that God is ready to present us with. And we're saying, no, we're not ready for those. How about tomorrow? Because when you're on your path, you're doing what you need to do, you tend to be in alignment and the gifts come abundantly. So that's why sometimes we say, hey, fail fast, because if you started the project last Monday, you would have found out that the piece that is missing takes a week to come in the mail, and now your whole project's been pushed back a week, you can't even start. But if you started on Monday, you knew, oh, I'm missing this piece, so it'll be here next Monday, and now you can begin working on your project. Fail fast ties into procrastination very quickly. Also, you have a lot of people that are afraid to fail. They're afraid to make mistakes. But you have to make mistakes. You have to fail. That's the only way you learn. That's the only way you gain experience. So I want people to fail. I want people to mess up. Don't be afraid of messing up. A lot of people want perfection straight out the gate. You know, you start a podcast or a show, and the first one, they want it to be perfect straight out the gate. That's not possible. Just go. Done is better than perfect. Fail fast.